Chapter 10, The Opulence of the Absolute. When discussing the subject of spirituality among different audiences, certain reservations invariably seem to surface. People complain that they cannot see God at work, that He is not manifest in person before their eyes, and they have no direct experience of His existence. Show me God, the skeptics posit, and then I'll believe in Him. In chapter 10, Krishna explains how the spiritualist can simultaneously perceive God as the source of the creation and also see God within the creation. However, this requires more than an intellectual understanding. It actually calls for transformation of one's consciousness and revelation from within. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The acronym for this chapter is called C. S, source of everything. E, essence of Gita. E, everywhere. Verses 1 to 7 take us through the theme of source of everything. S. Modern science is founded upon the methodology of ascending knowledge, where one attempts to understand reality in its fullest extent by empirical research and experimentation. Krishna makes a simple but powerful rebuttal of such an approach. He explains how something which has been created cannot understand its source independently. For example, if one wanted to ascertain the identity of their father using a purely experimental approach, it would be highly impractical and most likely inconclusive. However, if one accepts the testimony of their mother first and subsequently experimented, such an approach would more likely be successful. In the same way, all material and spiritual creations have their source in Krishna, and one who approaches Him can get scientific insight into their identity and purpose. Later, Krishna will explain how such knowledge can actually be directly perceived. E stands for Essence of Gita, verses 8 to 11. These 4 verses contain the essence of the Bhagavad Gita and describe spirituality in its 3 essential stages. The first stage is entitled Sambandha, or knowledge of one's relationship with God and the universe. The second stage is the practice and application of such knowledge in one's daily life, technically known as Abhideya. And the third stage is the mature fruit of such practice, which is pure spiritual consciousness and unbounded love of God. This is known as Prayojana. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita is actually a spiritual science, since there is hypothesis Sambandha, experiment Abhideya, and observation or conclusion Prayojana. These 4 verses 8 to 11 give a road map of spirituality from beginning to end. Verses 12 to 42 take us through the theme of E, everywhere. Arjuna is satisfied by Krishna's explanation and requests him to elaborate further on his characteristics and qualities. In response, Krishna describes the most prominent amongst his limitless, all-pervading opulence. By doing this, he explains how one can actually think about Him, meditate on Him, and see Him everywhere. It is not that Krishna is physically all the things he mentions, but rather that He is the source of the opulence of these things, their strength, fame, wealth, and so on. After naming 82 opulences, Krishna concludes by stating that these simply hint at His glory, since He pervades and supports the entire universe with a mere fragment of His energy. Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam shrimat urjitameva va tat tat evavagachatvam mamatejomsha sambhava. Know that all opulent, beautiful and glorious creations spring but from a spark of my splendor.